Okay.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I would like to introduce you to Cindy Perlin. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Close enough.
I'm from Newfoundland, so that's what we do it there. So Cindy has kindly agreed to join us today to talk about biofeedback and neurofeedback. Cindy is or was a social worker,
Yes, I am.
and now is the owner of a website that we will put in the links. And it is a site where all sorts of holistic practitioners advertise. So I think Cindy's got a wealth of knowledge. Really happy to have you here. And would you like to tell us any more about yourself, Cindy, before we start?
Well, I am still a licensed clinical social worker and a certified biofeedback practitioner. And my website is the Alternative Pain Treatment Directory. And I'm a chronic pain survivor myself. I know what it's like to be in chronic pain and not know where to go to get some relief when the doctors don't help. So the website has information and recommended products and providers who provide natural approaches to pain relief.
May I ask, is that the reason why you started the website and the directory?
Well, yeah, the reason is that I know what it's like to be in pain. When I was 25, I hurt my back and I was disabled for 3.5 years. And the doctors were no help at all. They said, well, we don't know what's wrong with you. You just might be like this for the rest of your life. And I certainly didn't want to hear that. It made me almost suicidal. And it took me 3.5 years to find something that would work for me, which, as it turns out, was biofeedback in that particular situation. And then after that, when I got better, I had a problem with my foot that kept me from walking without terrible pain for 14 years. And it took me that long to find a solution. And it wasn't biofeedback that time. So, there's no one size fits all. And I'd like to help people find solutions.
That's fantastic. Well, we're certainly happy to have you here today.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry. All right. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you found neurofeedback and biofeedback, and because it sounds like it really worked for you. So that's exciting. And I'm sure people want to know more about that.
So I was lying in bed. I was seeing an osteopath who said to me, don't do anything but come see me, just stay in bed until you feel better. And that certainly wasn't working. I was really depressed. And a friend of mine felt sorry for me. So she gave me some books to read that were about World War II and the Holocaust. And that didn't cheer me up or help my pain situation. But I didn't know that. I didn't know that what I fed my mind with would have anything to do with my body. But then another friend came along and she gave me a book called Anatomy of an Illness, which is about Norman Cousins, who healed himself from a progressively crippling joint disease by laughter therapy. And he, talked about the importance of the mind-body connection. And he mentioned biofeedback. So I found a biofeedback therapist, a psychologist who offered it. And he just taught me how to warm my hands, which is a sign of how stressed you are. And this is warming it with your mind, not, running your hands under hot water. That doesn't really do anything for you. But if you learn to relax and you see the results with your hands warming, which is one of the things that happens when you relax, you're on the right track to relaxing your body. And that has lots of physiological changes, including blood flow to the extremities, which is what you're measuring. It also goes with muscle relaxation, better digestion, better immune response, slower heart rate, lower blood pressure. There's all sorts of things that happen that are positive for your health and your pain levels if you learn to relax. And with biofeedback, what you're doing is you're measuring how successful you are. And if you know the results of your efforts, you can adjust what you're doing to see what works best for you. So I went to that psychologist and he gave me this little thing that measured my hand temperature. And he told me that if I warm my hands, I'd feel better. And my pain was about 50% less by the next day.
15
and that
or
was
50?
50.
Wow. Wow.
And the reason is that I felt so out of control. Nobody was telling me I could do anything about my situation. And I was just so frightened because I felt so out of control. And he told me something that would help, something that I could do for myself. And that made all the difference in the world. You know, on top of the changes in physiology, I was able to learn to make with the biofeedback. So that little wraparound thing that measured my hand temperature, it was called the biotic band. It's no longer available, but I'll show you what I use these days. This is called the stress thermometer, and I have information about it on my website. My website is paintreatmentdirectory.com. And if you look in the products for stress thermometer, you can read all about it. It costs $25. And I really think it's the best investment anybody can make in their health, no matter what's wrong with them. Because if you can learn to manage your physiology, which is what biofeedback teaches you to do, you can make a huge difference in your health.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Thank you. I'll just ask, what did you learn from that doctor to do with your hands? Is it something you can show us?
Well, it wasn't anything you do with your hands. It's what you do with your mind. So
Okay.
your mind,
Okay.
anytime you have a thought, it changes your physiology. Either
Yes.
you move towards more stressful physiology, which is more muscle tension, reduced blood flow to extremities, more rapid, respiration, heart rate. Anytime you have this fear thought or negative thought, that's what you're going to get more of. If you do something relaxing, like have a positive thought or distract yourself with something pleasant or focus on something neutral, which is what meditation is, then your body will go in the direction of relaxation. And then the hand thermometer will measure that. You just tape the sensor to your finger, or you hold it between your two fingers, and will tell you how successful you're being. And with practice, people get better and better. When people come to my office, I have much fancier equipment. And the fancy equipment I have in my office has, you can play DVDs and you get sound effects and all of that. And you get more sensitive biofeedback, because what I have in my office measures to 1/100th of a degree, but this measures to 1/10th of a degree. And that's that's better than what I started with when I had my problem. So if you know how you're doing, like I said, you can learn to do it better because you have the feedback. And it also helps because a lot of times people will try meditation or relaxation and they'll say, I'm not good at it. It's not doing anything. And usually they're wrong, but they're just not sensitive enough to their own physiology to pick up the changes. So
Right.
when you have the information, it's very motivating. You could say, oh, I could see I got it better. Maybe if I do it more, maybe if I do it longer, and it helps. I've had people come to me who gave up on meditation because they didn't think it was doing anything. And then, when I show them the hand warming and how they were doing something when they're doing it, then they got motivated, they started doing it, and their physical problems got better. So it makes a huge difference.
Okay.
So all I did, initially was I did a meditation where I watched my breath. On the inhale, I said, relax. And on the exhale, I said, let go. And I just did that. If your mind wanders, you just bring it back to inhale, relax, exhale, let go. You just think it, you don't have to say it. And, it made such a huge difference, such a simple thing.
So when you refer to the word hand warming, so that's as your body relaxes, do you consciously send energy to your hands or nothing? Okay.
No, you don't have to. You can, And there are some things where you might want to do foot warming, and that's a little more challenging. If you're doing foot warming for peripheral neuropathy, for instance,
Mhm.
or high blood pressure, foot warming can be really helpful for. Then you do the relaxation, and then you get more specific. You might think about your feet more. You might think about sun shining on your feet, or, a bug crawling on your feet, or anything to get attention to your feet. And then, your feet will warm, because your body's energy does go to what you focus on. So if you
Right.
focus on a part of your body, another thing that I learned to do is, a lot of people don't want to focus on their body because it scares them, oh, that part hurts. But I talk about the difference between focusing on something with fear and focusing on something with healing intention. If
Yeah.
you give positive attention to your part of your body that's not doing well, your body's energy will go there and it will start to heal it.
Right. Thank you. I'm curious if you had scripts to use when you started, or are there instructions that come with the little gadget that one can buy?
Um, they changed the packaging. There might be some instructions, but really you can pair it with any kind of relaxation technique that that you've learned, that you've seen on YouTube, that you have in an app like Headspace. You can just add the biofeedback to it and
Right.
just see how it's working for you.
Right. That's great. That's great. Um, so you've been doing, how often do you use this practice yourself, Cindy?
That's an embarrassing question now. when I was when I was not feeling well, when I was in a lot of pain, I would
Yes.
do it every day, all day. In fact, when I got back to work after that episode, I was working at the child abuse hotline in New York State, which is not a relaxing place. But
No,
I
for
would
sure.
constantly monitor my hand temperature, and anytime it started to go lower, I would relax, and it enabled me to get through the day and not have, increased pain by the end of the day. So,
Okay.
and just let me talk about the numbers that you're aiming for. So relaxed is any hand temperature over 90 degrees. A training goal would be 94, 95, that you could get to that anytime you want. You can get as low as room temperature, so
Mm.
you're in a 70-degree room, your hands can be as cold as the room. And that, of course, you're ruling out you just picked up something hot or cold. So, you're not getting your true body temperature. You're getting, a hand temperature that's been changed by what you just handled. But if you're, just sitting there and you haven't come in from the cold or the heat, and it's your, normal physiology, then your hand temperature will reflect your stress level.
Right. Absolutely. I think it's a great gadget to have because I've been doing some work lately and realized how much of my body I don't pay attention to. Like in my mind, I'm very in tune and such, but I was not paying attention on purpose to things in my body because, whether it was a pain that I've had for a long time, it's just like I put up and shut up, right? So I love it. And if you're at a desk position or a job like you had, or in any other situation, we just left my mother-in-law. She had a couple of falls last night. So, um, to have that gadget and to be able to put it on your finger and have a quick glance, it's yet another reminder to take that breath and to
Mhm.
try and be more in the moment, because mindfulness is all over the internet everywhere, and there's many ways to get to being mindful, and this what a great tool this is to help us do that, I think.
Mhm. Mhm. And yeah, I just want to say a few words about other kinds of biofeedback, because there
Yes.
are other kinds that you would probably need to go to a practitioner for, but that do have some use. For instance, other modalities include muscle tension, heart rate variability, neurofeedback. So neurofeedback is really interesting. It's a much more complex process, but what it does is it changes the way that your brain works. So people who are in chronic pain for a long time, their brain actually gets in the habit of sending pain signals, of having an oversensitized reaction to any kind of stimuli. And it's very hard to shut that off. I mean, you could probably do it if you were really, really diligent all day, every day about staying in a relaxed place, then your brain would shift. But with neurofeedback, what you're doing is you're measuring some part of the brain, and you're giving the brain feedback in terms of audiovisual rewards to change. And so with chronic pain, you're usually trying to calm certain parts of the brain that have to do with maintaining that pain stimulus. So by doing this over a period of time, usually it's done twice a week, you can actually change the way your brain works and shut down that overactive part of the brain that keeps sending pain signals when you don't need them anymore. Oftentimes there's tissue healing, but the brain hasn't taken notice of that. And it keeps sending pain, so you protect the area when you don't have to do it anymore. So neurofeedback can be very powerful. So can just muscle tension biofeedback when you're, when you're in pain. People tend to brace against the pain. They tend to have unconscious bad habits. You can even learn how to do things more efficiently so they don't create more pain. You can learn, what ergonomic setup at your desk has the least muscle strain. How you hold your phone when you're talking on the phone or driving or whatever. You can monitor those things and adjust them, learn to adjust them so you're having less effort. So there's all kinds of things that you can do with biofeedback and neurofeedback that are very useful for pain.
Right. And I wonder, are you able to speak a little bit on neuroplasticity? Because it's my understanding that biofeedback and neurofeedback absolutely have to do with neuroplasticity. And that is why it's of the opinion that these techniques are the most helpful for people who are in pain, because body work and such is absolutely great, but it's the facilitator, the therapist is facilitating another's journey and encouraging their own body to heal, but you have more of an active, you're more active in your healing, I think, when you do the biofeedback and neurofeedback. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I would think with any good therapy that the therapist is teaching the person about their body. When
Yes.
you go to a physical therapist or chiropractor or massage therapist, the good ones that I've been to, they show you how to do things that are going to make things easier or better for you. But with biofeedback, you do have, the person is interacting with the instrument, whatever that instrument is, however fancy it is,
Mhm.
and learning to change things in a very direct way. So with the neurofeedback, you asked about brain plasticity. Until about 20 years ago or so, neuroscientists said you're stuck with the brain cells you have, you can't change them, which is pretty silly when you think that we learn, we learn new things and our brain shifts with that. What you're doing with neurofeedback is you're teaching the brain how to be different. You're teaching it how to work differently in a more functional way. So, and you're rewarding it for making those changes. And when I say rewarding it, most of the time when I do neurofeedback, people watch movies and the movies interact with the software and they just play more smoothly. The picture is bigger, it's brighter, the volume is louder when your brain is doing better, and not so great when it's not. And so your brain is thinking, how do I get it to do that? How do I get this movie to play better? In the process, it shifts. And the more you do that, the more your brain learns to stay in that place. And you don't have to even think about how do you do that like you do with the other kinds of biofeedback where you're learning a relaxation skill or a movement skill. With neurofeedback, your brain, your unconscious part of your brain that runs your body is learning something new.
Right.
And it's very powerful.
And I understand as we redirect our thoughts and our thinking pattern and using the neurofeedback, is that it almost sets down new neural tracks in your brain.
Right.
So, and
Yeah.
when that's repeated, it gets away from the old tracks. And with the new ones, we can teach or we can learn to feel so much better.
Yeah, and it works for other things besides pain that are often associated with pain, like anxiety and depression and, heart disease and all of that. I mean, if your brain is working better, your physiology is better,
Yes.
and your brain is spending more time healing and less time, monitoring the environment and, being overstimulated by the environment, so your
Right.
brain can do more healing. And usually, when I start someone in neurofeedback, they have a whole checklist of symptoms and they rate the severity of it. And I track up to 25 symptoms that people have, and they could be all over the place. They could be digestive symptoms, they can be pain symptoms, they can be, anxiety, anger, all of that. And over time, we track the severity. And it's amazing because you see everything getting better over time. Focus, a lot of people in pain live in brain fog a lot of the time. You can help with focus. So you see everything improving. And, that's pretty nice. They get effects they didn't come for. When you take a medication, you get effects you didn't come for, and they're all negative. When you do biofeedback of any kind, you get side effects that are all positive. And that's another thing I really love about it.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with all the stress in the last couple of years. And, I think it's great for everybody to get that little boost to feel better and, to get back to embracing life again. And now that we can start to congregate and, it's time to shake off all those old fears. We've been inundated, at least in Canada, inundated with all of the precautions and such. I mean, it works. It was there for a reason. It's not everybody's belief that it's necessary. However, the majority of people did do what they were told. So now it's time to help us feel better so we can, get back out there and do our best.
And,
So,
another side effect of biofeedback that I forgot to mention is it helps your immune system, because when you're stressed, your immune system is suppressed. The physiology of stress is to put all of your energy into saving your life in the moment. It's
yes,
meant for when we were chased by a tiger and we had to either run or fight it off. And everything is put on hold that's not needed to outrun a tiger. But if your stress is chronic, it affects every system of the body, including your immune system. So, paying attention to your stress level will also help you stay immune healthy.
yes, right, for sure. Um, That's great, Cindy. And I also know that you've written a book called The Truth About Chronic Pain Treatments, the best and worst strategies for becoming pain-free. And I guess that's something we could access on maybe Amazon. Is that right?
Yes, it is available on Amazon.
Okay.
And thank you for mentioning it. That was free, my website, and it's an overview of all of the interventions for pain that I knew of at the time. I've learned about some other ones since then, but it has dozens of different therapies for pain. And it talks about, which ones are harmful, which ones are helpful. And it's a great overview.
That's awesome. So if anybody is interested in hearing from someone who's been there and who has investigated and maybe perhaps even tried out many of these
Oh,
therapies
yes.
himself.
Most of them over time.
Is that right? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Is there anything else you would like to add, to mention, Cindy, that we didn't cover?
Well, I just like to encourage people to go to my website, paintreatmentdirectory.com, because there's so much information there, not just about mind body stuff, but about every therapy, every supplement that's available for pain relief, and helpful products, helpful providers.
Mhm. Now, I'm curious, since you've written this book and have this awareness of what works and what doesn't work, do you carefully vet the people who are on your website?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have the resources to do that. They're all certified or licensed. And, I do encourage people, even in, how to use this website and that page, I say, check them out yourself,
For
talk
sure.
to them. I think the best gauge of a good provider isn't their credentials, really. It's how much they care about you and how much they know and how much time they're willing to spend with you.
Mhm.
So, I encourage people to contact the people themselves, the providers, and, just scope them out, see what they think. And of
Right.
course, if there are online reviews, if there are, if they know people who've used them, obviously check with them too.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Well, that's wonderful. Well, thank you very much for being here with us today and sharing your information about biofeedback and neurofeedback. I invite everybody listening to join our Facebook group. That'll be in your emails, Holistic Pain Relief on Facebook. And some speakers may be able to join us to answer any questions that you have. Um, and thank you again and
Oh,
have
you're welcome.
a
Thank you
glorious.
so much for inviting me.
Okay. Thanks, Cindy. Take
Take
care.
care.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye.